And the fourth quarter final is between Glynn-Barntown and Ferns St Aidans. Now, these two sides, Larry, fought out a battle last year in more ways than one, really, in Chadwicks Wexford Park. It was a very close game. It was a very well contested game. I think Mark Fanning got a whole heap of frees. It was a wet night and it ended in an almighty row. So, what can we expect at the weekend?
Well, we're hoping to see the same standard of hurling anyway from both of them, because it was a cracking game altogether. You know, a bit of a row at the end of it. It wasn't great, to be quite honest. You know, you see worse up on Vinegar Hill sometimes as well, you know, when the Battle of Vinegar Hill was on, but this was close to it, to be quite honest. And you know, as I said, it was a great game, and I think that this weekend is going to be the very same. The two teams will have a bit between their teeth. That little incident that happened last year will be stuck in their mind as well. So, you know, Glynn will fancy themselves going into this. You know, Ferns are coming in the back door a little bit quite unknown to many teams or whatever, but they're also hurling well. But you know, it's going to be a ding-dong battle again with these two teams. You know, both teams are well capable of beating one another. But I just think Glynn-Barntown might just have a little bit more experience in themselves this time around. They've shown some lovely performances this year in the championship. You know, as Gary said earlier, sometimes they're hot and sometimes they're cold. But I think they're also coming into the championship, you know, on a little bit of a high. John Lacey's in great form as well. Rowan White is in great form. And when you have leaders like that playing well, then the rest of the guys around them are able to pull up their socks. So, you know, Ferns, on the other hand, you know, they're also relying on Paul Morris an awful lot as well. So it'll be interesting how the game will finish. But I still think that Barntown will just see it out by 2 or 3 points in the end.
Well, Gary, what are your thoughts? Are your own club going to do it now, or what do you think?
Well, firstly, Larry, it's Glynn-Barntown. Don't get that wrong anymore, right? No, I'll be honest with you. I think this is a battle of two completely different styles of teams. I think Ferns are very quick. They're mobile. They play that quick game. I think Glynn are a much more physical team, even though they try and play through the lines. They're still don't mind going long either. They have a lot of big physical men. So I think if Glynn can keep really tight at the back, I think we might see it out. But my fear would be that if Ferns opens it up from midfield in running at us, I think we could be in a little bit of bother then. But again, look, the two teams know each other very well. They've played each other a lot over the last number of years, and there's never been much between them, to be honest. And you know, it's a very hard one to call. As I say, if our defensive system works properly, I think we might see it over the line. But I think if Ferns get a run on us and get in for a couple of goals, I think, you know, it's going to really get down to the wire.
And one bit of good news, Gary, from a Glynn-Barntown point of view, I'm told that Conor Mahoney made a long-awaited return in junior last week, and
absolutely,
perhaps he might be able to be making a few appearances before the end of the season.
Yeah, and that would be brilliant. Poor Conor has got an awful lot of heart of the last 2 years with his shoulder, you know, and he was really flying for us at the time. He was one of our, you know, young up-and-coming top players. So, you know, I really hope Conor stays fit now, and if he gets a couple of games under his belt, and if we can progress along into the championship for another couple of weeks, who knows, maybe he might get a bit of game time with the first team. But again, I'm not privy to it, but I know he did come on over the weekend for the juniors, so that's definitely a good sign for him.
And Larry, both of these clubs have never won a Pettit Senior Hurling Championship, and despite both of them being competitive almost every year, what do you think both of them are missing that hasn't got them over the line in the championship yet?
Yeah, well, down the years, actually, I thought Glynn-Barntown were probably the most unluckiest team not to win the championship, you know, because they always had the potential to go on to win it. They had great leaders in the day. When Gary was playing, Shane Carley, Willie Carley and all these, Tommy Kehoe, these lads, God, I'd often say there's certainly a championship or two in this bunch of lads, you know, and they got thereabouts, but they didn't get over the line. And I don't know, is it that inner belief? It's maybe a little bit like Wexford hurling down the years, you know. We needed some kind of good guidance to get us there, to get us over that final hurdle. You know, Glynn-Barntown, they probably were in the same position back then. But yes, you're right up, Peter. Both teams, Ferns and Glynn-Barntown, are no issue whatsoever. They're definitely good enough to win the county title. It's just that getting over that little final hurdle that's after holding it back for a number of years. And who knows, if whoever wins between them next week could go on to progress to another county final and even win it. So Gary said it earlier on, anyone could win it. So maybe the winners of this game at the weekend could go on to prove a point to someone and maybe shove it up someone's jersey, as they said before. But you'd have to ask Ed Rowsome a little bit more on that now. I'm disappointed that he's not here. He mustn't be well or something like that when there were free chips going down here. He surely should have turned up for him, so he mustn't be well tonight.
Ed had an eye off.
Well, you've heard the thoughts of the lads. We must give Ed credit actually, because he predicted last week, despite a bit of criticism for sitting on the fence, he predicted that Ferns and St Martin's last week would be a draw.
That's correct.
So I think it's fair that we give him credit where it's due. So you've heard the thoughts of the lads on Glynn-Barntown against Ferns. I'm going to just about tip Ferns, but I think it could be even after extra time, and there's another draw.